The 2 billion people rely on mountain water from glaciers for their day-to-day needs.
And we know when glaciers shrink, so do river flows. In the future, major Himalayan rivers like the Indus, the Ganges, and Brahmaputra could have massively reduced flows.
Nepal has experienced a series of severe weather events in the recent past with devastating impacts on people and their livelihoods. Floods and glacial lake outbursts have caused large-scale destruction and damage, and droughts, water scarcity, and forest fires have brought untold suffering to the people across the country.
As a Himalayan nation, this is not a distant issue. It is our daily reality. But it is not just ours, it is the world's.
India, under the visionary leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, is deeply committed to contributing to climate action with the urgency it demands, despite our minimal role for the crisis it faces. Our nationally determined contribution under the Paris Agreement and our National Action Plan on Climate, we are testament to our resolve.
I'm so pleased to send a message of solidarity and support to this first ever Sagarmatha Sambodh. I couldn't agree more with the spirit of this gathering, that your majestic mountains, including Sagarmatha, truly inspire us to think beyond borders and reflect through dialogue and engagement. I have felt that spirit on my visits to Nepal, including most recently when I had the privilege of seeing the glacial valley basins of Mount Everest and the Annapurnas. And I saw firsthand how the rooftops of the world are caving in. Record temperatures have meant record glacier melt. Nepal today is on thin ice, losing close to 1/3 of its size in just over 30 years. And your glaciers have melted 65% faster in the last decade than in the previous one. Nepal and so many other vulnerable frontline countries did not cause this tragedy, but you are living with the impacts. And we know when glaciers shrink, so do river flows. In the future, major Himalayan rivers like the Indus, the Ganges, and Brahmaputra could have massively reduced flows, combined with saltwater intrusion that would decimate deltas. We would see low-lying countries and communities erased forever. Millions of people on the move with fierce competition for water and land, and floods, droughts, and landslides accelerating worldwide. That is why last year from Nepal I sent a global message to the world: stop the madness. And that is why you are gathered together focused on Sambodh dialogue. The world has much to learn from Nepal's climate leadership, from your local adaptation plan of action, to pioneering the United Nations early warning systems for all initiative, the extraordinary efforts on reforestation, and pushing to reach your climate goals by 2045. The world must act without delay to keep 1.5 degrees in reach, with the biggest emitters in the lead. By seizing the opportunities of renewable energy and the benefits they bring to communities and economies, by making good on climate finance commitments, including the $1.3 trillion climate finance goal agreed at COP29, by honoring the promise of developed countries to double adaptation finance to at least $40 billion this year, and by delivering serious support to the Loss and Damage Fund to help the most vulnerable. Achieving these goals demands bold cooperation across nations and sectors. The United Nations is your ally in this essential task, and I thank you.
This critical issue of climate change, mountains, and the future of humanity. I must express my deepest gratitude to the leadership of the government of Nepal and the Right Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Sharma Oli. And I must also thank the Honorable Foreign Minister, Dr. Arzu Rana Deuba, for efforts to gather us all together. Dear colleagues, people in many parts of the world often think of mountain communities as far away and isolated. They do not see how the issues that affect this distant place also affect them. But our understanding of the climate crisis is growing. We are now seeing how we are all connected. And we are recognizing the need for collective action. From the Andes to Alps, the 2 billion people rely on mountain water from glaciers for their day-to-day needs. Melting glaciers and ice sheets are causing sea levels to rise at alarming rates. This is a risk to 10% of the world's population that lives in coastal areas from South Asia to sub-Saharan Africa. It threatens the very existence of small island states in the Pacific and the Caribbean. And disruptions in mountain ecology have major social and even geopolitical consequences. In Kathmandu, we can see the pressure climate change puts on water infrastructure. As permafrost thaws, we see damage to roads and buildings in remote communities. And in the states around the Himalayas, we see how climate change can upset the sensitive balance between powers. Melting glaciers also cause a dangerous positive feedback loop. As ice melts, less light is reflected, so more heat is absorbed and more ice melts. We need everyone to understand the urgency of this problem and work together to address them. We need to prevent these changes where possible, and we need to adapt to them where needed. In Azerbaijan and the Caucasus, we know these issues well. In only 7 years, we have lost almost 20% of our glaciers. They could disappear totally by 2050. Our river levels are already falling. We have less water for our people and our agriculture. This is a real risk to human health and economic development. It could undermine the progress that we have achieved in recent decades. Ladies and gentlemen, with the guidance and support of the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, His Excellency Ilham Aliyev, we undertook the responsibility to bringing the world to Baku for COP29. This is because the President understood that we have a moral duty and a clear interest to act. We knew that for global challenges, we need global action. The multilateral system is not always perfect, but it has delivered many benefits, and it is essential for making progress. Within the COP process, mountains have been rising up the agenda. In the global stocktake at COP28 in Dubai, we encouraged integrated and multi-sectoral solutions to protect and restore mountain environments. We held an expert dialogue on mountains and climate change in June last year at the Bonn Climate Conference. And we are working to agree indicators on adaptation for mountain ecosystems under the global goal on adaptation. Azerbaijan was the first country from our region to host COP. We are also one of the few countries with mountain zones to ever hold the conference. We understood that we had the responsibility to represent these communities and to highlight the issues they face on the world stage. We knew that we had to deliver results. First, we wanted to enhance ambitions. We got over 70 countries to endorse the COP29 Declaration on Water for Climate Action. They resolved to promote partnership and dialogue, strengthen scientific understanding, and enhance water-related climate policies. And we launched the Baku Dialogue on Water for Climate Action to ensure COP-to-COP continuity and regional cooperation. This dialogue will develop actionable pathways for early warning systems, climate resilience, infrastructure, and scaling nature-based solutions, amongst other outcomes. We invite everyone to join the declaration and the dialogue. We will hold a preliminary meeting in Bonn this June before the first meeting of the dialogue platform at COP30 in Belém. We look forward to seeing you all there. Next, finance was at the center of the COP29 presidency's vision to enable action. We brought stakeholders together to mobilize money for mountain communities. We hosted the Asian Development Bank, the Green Climate Fund, governments, development partners, and the private sector to launch the Glaciers to Farms initiative. This project will mobilize up to $3.5 billion for investment in water, agriculture, and communities threatened by glacier melt and fragile mountain regions. We also got the Loss and Damage Fund up and running. The fund now has an executive director who can open an office, get a bank account, hire staff, and start approving projects. This will be a critical resource to support communities that face irreversible consequences from glacier melt. But we knew we had to go even further. Finance was at the heart of the negotiations in Baku. The COP29 presidency's top negotiating objective was a new climate finance goal to support the developing world for the next 10 years. It has never going to be easy. Under the UN, we had never set out to establish a goal like this. We had to bridge divides on the underlinked issues of structure, contributors, and quantum. And we saw a clear demand for strong qualitative elements that would help reshape the global financial architecture. It was a complex negotiation where nothing was agreed until everything was agreed. As anyone who has climbed Sagarmatha knows, the wind blows strongest on the top of the mountain. It would get tough as we entered the final stages, but we were determined to reach our objective. When a target of $250 billion was initially suggested, we were clear that we needed to go further. We needed a goal that was fair and ambitious. We refused to close a conference. We held everyone back from leaving. And in very final moments, we landed a deal on the COP29 Baku finance goal. This tripled the previous goal with a pledge to mobilize at least $300 billion per year to the developing world by 2035. This is the largest ever financial goal to come from the UN process, turning billions to trillions. It will send a strong signal to the financial markets, provide greater certainty for long-term planning, help build trust and momentum for collective action, and set a benchmark to hold us all to account. But most critically, it will fund action. It will catalyze finance for more clean energy projects. This will reduce emissions to help prevent the worst effects of climate change on mountainous regions. It will mobilize public money for climate-resilient infrastructure. And it will help to support communities that face irreversible loss and damage. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we understand that the goal was not everything for everyone. The COP29 presidency pushed for the highest possible level of ambition. But we were realistic that the public sector could not deliver the full scope of the developing world's needs. That's why we included for call of all actors to step up, and countries tasked the Azerbaijani and Brazilian COP presidencies to set out the Baku to Belém roadmap for how we could reach $1.3 trillion a year by 2035. We must now focus on implementation. The COP29 presidency will remain active to ensure that donors deliver their promises. We will hold governments to account to make sure that they mobilize the $300 billion they pledged in Baku. We are calling on them to make early progress on past promises. This means doubling adaptation funding by the end of the year compared to 2019 levels. And it means tripling the outflows from the official UN climate funds by 2030. For example, this includes more resources for the Green Climate Fund that supported the Glaciers to Farms initiative at COP29. Next year is a critical year to enhance ambition in national climate plans. We need to deliver the plans for how we will reduce emissions, known as a nationally determined contributions. We want everyone to produce national adaptation plans for how we will prepare for the consequences of climate change. And as we set out at the COP29 Declaration of Water for Climate Action, we encourage everyone to integrate water into these plans and climate policies. As a developing country, Azerbaijan understands how challenging it can be to develop these plans. We have worked with the UN Secretary General and the whole UN system to make sure that support is available for everyone who needs it. We hope that countries will take advantage of it. We also want to remind everyone of the benefits of producing these plans, because these plans can serve as green lights for green investment, setting targets and timelines, highlighting priority sectors and industries, and demonstrating governments' commitment to action will send strong signals. These signals will attract and guide investment from both international donors and the private sector. They can be a useful roadmap for how we deploy the $300 billion a year that was pledged in Baku. Ladies and gentlemen, in a world full of distractions and competing priorities, we need to maintain focus and momentum. Azerbaijan is committed to playing its role to keep climate action high on the international agenda. We have seen encouraging signs from many committed climate actors, but we have also seen attention falling amongst others. So we need to keep up the work. The UN General Assembly designated 2025 as the International Year of Glaciers Preservation to raise awareness. We are deeply grateful to the government of Nepal for contributing to this mission by organizing today's gathering. These efforts remind us all of the communities that we have a responsibility to serve and protect. Dear colleagues, when we brought everyone to Baku for COP29, we called on them to act under the slogan of solidarity. This is because we understood that climate change affects everyone. No country can insulate itself from its impacts, and everyone has a responsibility to act. We need to think of the hundreds of millions of people in mountain communities. We need to think of the billions of people who are affected by what happens in them. And once again, we need to move forward in a solidarity for a green world. I thank you.
This is Nepal's Global Dialogue initiative, a platform for thoughtful reflection, for principled engagement, and for addressing the most urgent challenges of our time. Today, the line between local and global has all but vanished. What happens in one corner of the world echoes across the rest. The fire that rages in one land darkens the skies of others. The melting of distant glaciers shifts the rains, floods the fields, and parches the plains far away. The decisions of a few can shape the destiny of many. It is within this deeply interconnected reality that the Sagarmatha Sambad was born. A space for honest dialogue, for shared wisdom, for collective action. We have named it after Sagarmatha, the highest point on earth. And we hope this Sambad, our dialogue, will rise just as high. High in moral clarity, bold in intellectual courage, steady in our shared vision for a better world. Ladies and gentlemen, today the world stands before towering metaphorical mountains. Challenges loom vast and urgent. There, the recovery from the pandemic is still fragile. The climate crisis is speeding up. In many corners of the world, peace feels more distant than ever. Trust in global institutions is weakening. Inequalities within countries and across borders are growing deeper. Multilateralism, once a guiding light, now sways under heavy storms. And yet, amidst this uncertainty, we hold on to a simple, powerful belief: the power of dialogue. Ladies and gentlemen, Nepal is not just a piece of geography. It is a sacred land where wisdom breathes through every stone and stream. Here the spirit of awakening was born. This is the land of Lord Buddha. From this soil, a light emerged, guiding humanity towards peace, compassion, and harmony. It is soil where sages meditated, where seekers found truth, where rishis offered the world a wealth of knowledge that still uplifts the human soul. Nepal has always been a place of seekers, not of conquerors, but of contemplators. Not of battles, but of dialogue. Our tradition is rooted in listening with respect, in speaking with sincerity, and in seeking truth together. Sagarmatha Sambad is born from that very spirit. It is a gentle revival of our ancient ways, a space where wisdom bows to humility, where many voices come together with reverence, where we look for answers, not with ego, but with empathy. We are reminded of an ancient truth: Vade Vade Jayate Tattvada. Through dialogue, truth shines. Even in moments of deep division, it is not silence or shouting that helps us. It is honest conversation. It is honest listening. It is speaking from the heart. Sagarmatha Sambad is our humble attempt to carry this sacred legacy forward. Our first theme speaks to our soul: climate change, mountains, and the future of humanity. As a Himalayan nation, this is not a distant issue. It is our daily reality. But it is not just ours, it is the world's. Can humanity survive without its mountains? Can we protect the future without protecting these ancient guardians. Mountains may seem far away, but their breath keeps half the world alive. From the Arctic to the Andes, from the Alps to the Himalayas. They are the Earth's water towers, they are our climate poles, and they are in danger. Their fragility is our shared vulnerability. From the lap of Sagarmatha, the world's highest peak, we send this message loud and clear. To protect the mountains is to protect the planet. To protect the mountains is to protect our seas. To protect the mountains is to protect humanity itself. Let this Samvad be not just a dialogue, but a determination. A determination to listen, to act, and to work together towards a gentler, wiser, and more compassionate world. Ladies and gentlemen, climate change is no longer a distant threat. It is the greatest challenge of our time. It touches everything, our planet, our people, our shared prosperity. No nation is untouched. No society is safe. But the heaviest burden falls on those least responsible. The poorest, the most vulnerable, the mountainous and the least developed. Nepal stands among them. We have done little to cause this crisis, yet we face its harshest consequences. Glaciers are melting, rains are uncertain, landslides sweep away homes, floods and droughts come without warning. And still, we stand firm. Our emissions are small, almost negligible, but our contributions are meaningful. Our Himalaya cool the region, nature's own climate stabilizer. Our forests cover nearly half of the land, breathing in carbon, breathing out hope. Our rivers flow from the high snows, quenching the thirst of millions. Our protected areas are sanctuaries guarding the planet's rich biodiversity. Nepal has pledged net zero emission by 2045, 5 years ahead of the global target. We are advancing adaptation plans. We are greening our economy. We are weaving sustainability into our national vision. Yet we cannot do it alone. No country can. Climate change is a global emergency. It calls for a global response. A response anchored in justice, rooted in responsibility, fueled by solidarity. Climate justice must lead the way. Those who pollute the most must do the most. They must support the most vulnerable with finance, with technology, with capacity. And let us not forget the mountains. Too often, they are ignored in global terms, yet they regulate climate. They store water. They recharge the land. They cradle life. When mountains fall, valleys suffer, rivers dry up, crops fail, oceans rise. Lives unravel. The Himalayas, our third pole, are warming faster than the global average. Glaciers are vanishing. Glacial lakes are swelling. Millions downstream are at risk. We need a bold, integrated vision, a mountains to oceans approach. We must give mountains the attention they deserve, with special financing, with tailored policies. We must invest in clean energy, grow climate resilient crops, uplift women and youth, and protect those forced to move. Let us strengthen risk assessment, build early warning systems, share data, work together across borders, and most importantly, let us bridge ancient wisdom with modern innovation. This is how we build resilience. This is how we honor the earth. This is how we protect our shared future. Ladies and gentlemen, the mountains inspire us, not because they stand apart, but because they rise above. They offer perspective. They teach us to think beyond ourselves. In that spirit, our dialogue must rise to above narrow interest toward a higher shared purpose. Let us join hands. Let us act with courage and care for a future that is just, for a planet that is sustainable. We need fresh resolve, bold ideas, new investments, and deep cooperation across regions, across the world. A green, resilient, and sustainable future is not a choice. It is the only path forward. Sagarmatha Samvad is our humble offering, a global platform to listen, to speak, and to understand, a space to build trust, to imagine a world where harmony with nature and equity among people is not a distant dream but a living reality. Together, let us climb towards the summit of resilience, towards the peak of justice, toward a future built on shared hope. We look forward to your wisdom, to your voices, to your vision throughout this Samvad. May our time in Nepal be joyful and inspiring in the land of Sagarmatha, in the land of Buddha. Thank you. Thank you.
On behalf of the Government of Nepal, please accept my sincere thanks and appreciation to you for lending your valuable support to Nepal's signature initiative at fostering dialogue among nations. Sagarmatha Samvad is inspired by the motto of Bade Bade Jayate Tattabodh. This ancient maxim enjoins us to seek truth in a spirit of debate and dialogue, and through the exchange of differing ideas and points of view. The Samvad provides an occasion for reflection and introspection and aims to encourage meaningful conversations on matters that matter to all of us, from the mountains to the seas and from the global north to the global south. The theme of the Sagarmatha Samvad this year is climate change, mountains, and the future of humanity. As a land of delicate mountain ecosystems, Nepal is already facing the full force of climate change. As conscientious custodians of our rivers, forests, and mountains, we contribute more than our due share to the health of the planet. However, we are forced to face a heavy and disproportionate burden of the negative impacts of climate change. The absence of honest dialogue and impactful action not only heightens the risk on the environment in Nepal and elsewhere, but also puts the future of humanity itself at great peril. This is a grave injustice and must be addressed promptly lest it becomes too late. Over the next 3 days, we will ask ourselves how best to tackle the existential threat of climate crisis, restore the health of the planet, and ensure the well-being of the people who live in it. Excellencies and distinguished delegates, mountains are humanity's shared global resources. They store and supply fresh water, act as natural carbon sinks, and are home to breathtaking biodiversity and abundant natural resources. They offer an array of sustainable climate solutions in the form of reforestation, watershed protection, and ecotourism. The Himalayas, in particular, are integral to Earth's natural cooling system as they serve as a natural climate stabilizer. There are organic links and complementarities between mountains and oceans. A climate distress in the mountains finds a parallel echo in the sea coast. The fates of the two are closely intertwined. For the people of Nepal, the Himalayas are not only an embodiment of an ancient culture and heritage, but are also a central pillar of our national pride and identity. The tragedy is that the Himalayas are facing an unprecedented stress test in real time today, exposing not only the fragile nature of our mountain ecosystems, but also glaring evidence of the lack of meaningful global climate action. As a mountainous country with high disaster risk vulnerability, Nepal faces a stark predicament. Nepal has experienced a series of severe weather events in the recent past with devastating impacts on people and their livelihoods. Floods and glacial lake outbursts have caused large-scale destruction and damage, and droughts, water scarcity, and forest fires have brought untold suffering to the people across the country. We are the trustees of a planet. We were fortunate to inherit whole and healthy from our forebearers. We must act now to make sure that we pass it on to our future generations just as green, beautiful, and robust as we received from them. Excellencies, dear friends, the Himalayas are shouldering the heaviest weight of climate-induced disruption today. Our glaciers, the fragile yet timeless symbols of a healthy planet, are retreating at an alarming pace. What took millennia to form is melting away in silence just in front of our eyes. Mountain communities everywhere are especially vulnerable as they depend on nature for their daily lives. Climate-induced disasters are shaking the very foundations of their existence and livelihoods. Yet, there are incredible examples of many local communities fighting strenuously against climate change. Women, indigenous people, youth, and marginalized groups, especially in mountain regions, are the gentle caretakers of our natural world. They fight on the home ground, and they know how to fight a long fight. Recognizing and giving value to their local knowledge and lived experience is critical to building adaptive and sustainable communities, as is empowering them with resources and opportunities for finding sustainable solutions to an existential crisis. This cannot happen without concomitant cooperation among governments, corporations, and civil society at the international level. Excellencies, dear friends, the Atharva Veda proclaims, Mata Bhumi Putro Ham Prithviya. The earth is my mother and I am a child. Inspired by this ancient maxim, Nepal remains deeply committed to tackling climate change by aligning itself with international efforts aimed at combating climate change. As per our commitment to the Paris Agreement, we are working towards lowering emissions, exploring local climate solutions, and nurturing a sustainable and resilient earth. Nepal has committed to achieving the target of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2045. Hydropower, a clean form of energy, has remained Nepal's largest source of electricity, Community forestry, a natural resource management program pioneered by Nepal, has not only helped Nepal enlarge its forest cover significantly, but has also emerged as a model of participatory conservation the world over. We have embraced initiatives like the National Adaptation Program of Action, NAPA, and the Local Adaptation Plans for Action, LAPA. These empower local communities to design solutions that fit their unique needs and realities. Nevertheless, the cascading impacts of global warming and climate change far exceed our capacity and resources to mitigate them. We call for predictable and adequate climate finance as we require greater resources to implement our national and local adaptation plans. Climate change is a global crisis transcending national boundaries. Nothing less than a global alliance based on justice and solidarity can hope to make a dent on the existential crisis that climate change brings in its wake. Thus, we call for a sufficient and effective loss and damage fund that can be easily accessed by countries in crisis. Nepal has therefore been consistently at the forefront of advocating for climate justice in international forums and multilateral institutions. It is essential that the world acknowledges the vulnerabilities of countries like Nepal and supports targeted mitigation and adaptation strategies through the provision of climate finance, adaptation support, and technology transfer. Excellencies, dear friends, as we engage in dialogue, I kindly invite you to reflect on how we can connect mountains to oceans, advance the green economy, and uphold climate justice for every person. I also hope that this forum will be an opportunity to contemplate on the linkages between climate change and regional and international peace, security, and stability, as well as the impacts of climate change on migration, food security, humanitarian crisis, and disaster risks. I hope this dialogue will help spark fresh ideas, foster cooperation, and mobilize greater political will in combating the specter of climate change and the existential threat to the future of humanity. I call upon all dignitaries and participants to walk with us in making this Sambad a great success. I once again extend a warm welcome to all of you to the first edition of the Sagarmatha Sambad. Thank you and welcome.
I extend my deepest gratitude to the government of Nepal for its visionary initiative in convening this critical dialogue. The very name, Sagarmatha, the head of the sky, evokes a sense of majesty and indeed the immense responsibility we gather to address. The Samvad, dedicated to the passing theme of climate change, mountains, and the future of humanity, could not be merely timely, nor its location more fitting. Excellencies, the science is clear. Our mountains are sounding the alarm. As a consequence of a global warming due to human activity, glaciers are retreating, threatening the future of water security for population downstream. The unique and fragile biodiversity of these high-altitude ecosystem is under severe stress. The livelihood and ancient culture of mountain communities are threatened, despite contributing the least of the climate crisis. The Himalayas bear a significant part of the burden of the environmental crisis. We, in India, with our significant Himalayan territory, witness these impacts firsthand. We share the concern of the mountain states and their peoples. Our environmental futures are instinctively linked, but our futures are also dependent on the collective action of all nations in mitigating greenhouse gas emission in keeping with the principle of equity and common but differentiated responsibility and respective capabilities. South Asia has been responsible for only 4% of global cumulative carbon dioxide emission until 2020, despite being home to almost 25% of the global population. Ladies and gentlemen, the global carbon budget is rapidly being exhausted with the developed nations continuing to disproportionately grab the merged remaining carbon budget. Their commitment to providing climate finance, technology transfer, and capacity building have been profoundly neglected, intensifying the climate crisis for which they bear far greater responsibility. This Samvad, therefore, is not just a forum for discussion, it is a call for collective, concrete action. It is also an opportunity to pool our wisdom and scientific expertise, share our experiences, and forge robust partnership to safeguard these critical ecosystems and the communities they support. India, under the visionary leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, is deeply committed to contributing to climate action with the urgency it demands. Despite our minimal role for the crisis it faces, our nationally determined contribution under the Paris Agreement and our National Action Plan on Climate, we are testament to our resolve. So are the ambitious target for renewable energy, aiming for 500 gigawatt of non-fossil fuel-based installed electricity generation capacity by 2030. Our leadership in the International Solar Alliance and the Coalition for Disaster Resilience Infrastructure, and our long-term goal of reaching net zero by 2070 are all testaments to our resolve. Based on the principle of equity, climate justice, and common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities, we are walking the talk on climate action, integrating sustainability into the very fabric of our development paradigm, guided by Mission Life, Lifestyle for Environment. Excellencies, our Honorable Prime Minister, on 5th June 2024, on the occasion of World Environment Day, launched the campaign Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam, Plant for Mother, under which citizens are encouraged to plant a sapling as mark of love, respect and honor for their mother. The campaign involves taking a pledge to protect trees, and 1.42 billion saplings have been planted, including 72.1 million trees in the Indian Himalayan region. Specifically, for our Himalayan region, we are implementing a dedicated national mission focused on sustaining the Himalayan ecosystem, promoting climate-resilient agriculture, and enhancing disaster preparedness. We understand that solution for mountain region must be context-specific, integrating indigenous knowledge with cutting-edge science and technology. Further, India is also developing its first national adaptation plan, which aims to develop a comprehensive and inclusive roadmap that aligns with sustainable development goals and ensures climate resilience for all sectors and regions, including the Himalayan region. Members of the August gathering, at the 13th COP to the Convention of Migratory Species in February 2020, Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji highlighted the importance of Project Snow Leopard, which was launched to protect the snow leopard and its habitat in the upper Himalayas. On those lines, today, I am happy to share with you all that we have conducted India's first comprehensive snow leopard population assessment. The comprehensive assessment, which was conducted between 2019 and 2023, indicated a total of 718 snow leopards across India, accounting for approximately 10 to 50% of the global population. Considering the importance of rich biodiversity values at high altitude and mountain landscape like Indo-Nepal, the transboundary conservation of big cats like snow leopard, tiger, and leopard is vital. I encourage all Himalayan countries to spearhead the conservation of big cats, including snow leopards, under the aegis of International Big Cat Alliance, an international legal entity launched by Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji to share conservation expertise, fund conservation initiatives, and create a repository of technical knowledge. Excellencies, the challenge before us are immense, but so is our collective capacity for innovation and collaboration. This Samvad must pave the way for enhanced scientific cooperation, strengthening research, collaboration, and monitoring catastrophic changes, hydrological cycle, and biodiversity. Second, building climate resilience. Investing in climate adaptation measures, early warning system of disasters like glacier, lake, outburst floods, and climate resilient infrastructure in mountain areas. Third, empowering mountain communities, ensuring that the welfare, needs, and aspiration of local communities are the heart of policy making and their benefit from green livelihoods and sustainable tourism. Their traditional knowledge is an invaluable resource. Fourth, providing green finance, making available adequate and predictable climate finance as per UNFCCC and its Paris Agreement for mountain nations to implement adaptation and mitigation strategies effectively. Next, recognizing mountain perspective, ensuring that the unique vulnerabilities and contributions of mountain ecosystem are suitably featured in the global climate negotiation and sustainable development agencies. India is committed to working closely with Nepal and the Himalayan nations as well as our global partners to translate the deliberation here into tangible outcome. We believe in the spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The world is one family, and this extends to our shared ecological heritage. I am confident that the rich discussion over next few days, graced by the presence of so many esteemed experts and leaders, will chart a clear path forwarding. Once again, I congratulate the government of Nepal for this excellent initiative. May our collective effort ensure the Sagarmatha and our sacred mountains continue to stand tall as beacons of hope, resilience, and a sustainable future for all. Dhanyavad. Thank you.